Alright guys, here's a video that I've wanted to make for such a long time. It's been years of me wanting to make this video because I think it's important and I think I have something insightful to say about it. So, Joe Rogan, the biggest podcast in the entire world. Why is he so popular? Well, there's a lot of deeply complex reasons, but there's also a lot of very simplistic reasons, sort of a myriad of different reasons. At the baseline, obviously, it's about Joe Rogan. Oh no, Grogu. No, it's okay. Sometimes it's temperamental to get him to stand up. Okay. So, he has characteristics that are rare not only in the general populace nowadays, but rare or practically non-existent in media types, whether you're looking at propaganda on the right or left. Nobody is really presenting themselves authentically. No one is saying what they really think for fear of either cancel culture or losing your job when you work for one of the big tech oligarchs that don't allow you to have your own opinion. You need to toe the line. Whereas with Joe Rogan, it's very refreshing because he speaks his mind, and more specifically, where he's speaking his mind from is from a place of contemplation, honesty, and most importantly, I think, humility. If he's wrong, he'll admit it. If you were to go on his podcast and say, Joe, that's a load of horse shit, you're wrong, he'd be like, really? Oh, okay, well, let's look it up. And if he turns out to be wrong, he'll admit it. Which shouldn't be a rare quality nowadays, but it is, which is really sad. And this is very refreshing, and not only that, not only with his own demeanor, which is very fun to watch, because not only is he funny, but because, as I already explained, he's authentic. And he has guests on, not only of great fame, which to me, I really don't care how famous somebody is. If anything, higher fame tends to correlate with how completely useless most of the things they say are. It seems like the more simplistic and the more you cater to the lowest common denominator, the more famous you become. The more mindless your music, the more famous your music, etc., etc. But anyway, he has very distinguished academics, professors, deep thinkers, philosophical people on all the time. They have real conversations. Nobody's scared about hurting someone else's feelings. Oh my God. You can't, don't hurt my feelings. Oh. Like, yes, be respectful of other people's emotions, treat them with respect, but Joe Rogan and his guests most of the time recognize the reality that in order to solve problems and have a productive dialogue, you need to talk about tough shit regardless of how it makes other people feel. It's that simple. And then all these deeper reasons why his podcast is so popular, like, in addition to that, there's a lot of simple stuff, which is just memes, like elk meat and DMT and my favorite of which is it doesn't happen as often anymore, but just whenever chimps are brought up, like when Joe just finds a way to bring up chimpanzees, or like, hey, did you see that video? Have you seen? My favorite is like, have you seen a shaved chimp before? He's jacked. Like, I even show people pictures of jacked chimps sometimes because it's a funny conversation starter. Yeah, just thinking. I don't know if there's anything else other than that. It also feels like the Joe Rogan experience is one of the last places where truly free thought can exist. Actual productive dialogue from different sides of an aisle. And that's the other thing. He refreshingly is aware of how stupid tribalism is, how ridiculous it is that people are in their little camps of my side is absolutely right and your side is absolutely wrong. He's just aware of basic common sense principles that most people aren't aware of anymore. And it's just nice to listen to someone who you can tell is present, isn't delusional, like he isn't following some sort of, oh, I have to automatically reject that because it challenged me. He barely has any cognitive bias, which is extremely rare. Like, he doesn't care if he's wrong. And that's controlling his ego. His ego is healthy. He doesn't care if you prove him wrong. He's just an open-minded person. That's as simple as it gets, other than what I said, how humility is the most important thing. The other most important thing is he's just an open-minded person. And one of my favorite things about him is that he calls himself a moron. Like, he says he's stupid. And he isn't. Some of his guests will challenge him. I don't think he's like a grandiose, deep thinker, which is what he says. He's like, I'm not a genius, I'm just a person who's curious, which is the most important quality humans could ever have. He knows that he's not going to come up with some earth-shattering new idea about how things work, but he wants to know how things work objectively. He doesn't care about feeding his own perceptions. He doesn't care about reinforcing his own ideas. As he says, he's not married to his ideas, which is the smart thing to do. A lot of people think that that's some sort of weak-minded approach where you don't have conviction. Have conviction in things that you know. Like, you can have conviction and still be amendable to information that challenges you. Like, I could be like, oh, I'm very convinced that this is a specific way that the government should do things. I'm very determined in that. However, I will still talk to you. The problem with most people is they don't even talk. They just assume that they're right. And that is not how the world works. The entire discourse of nowadays is black and white. And the whole world is shades of gray. And again, Joe Rogan understands that. He also has people on that nobody else would dare have on because he knows that people will watch it. That's what made American culture, or Western culture at large, so fascinating and so much fun to be embroiled in, because there was no cancel culture. There was none of that hysteria shit where people feel unimportant in their everyday life, so they have to just feign outrage 24/7 online to feel like they have some sort of voice. And I empathize with that, but it's still stupid. And back to my larger point, American culture. Part of what made it amazing was that people who said horrible things, they would be able to actually act out that process of sharing what they think. And people have gotten into this stupid mindset where they think that's giving them a platform. Oh, you're giving them a platform. It's like, okay, and so what? If you think it's stupid, then you disavow them. You go, oh, he said that stupid thing. I don't like it. It's that easy. Why do we have to prevent them from saying something in the first place? If anything, they are showing their idiotic view or whatever they say that's stupid. And then the people who have a better viewpoint, you can just argue with them and disprove them. You shouldn't be threatened of people you disagree with having a platform unless you know you don't have any convincing arguments to defeat their argument, or you're a coward. Just a complete fucking coward who doesn't have the time to talk about important issues. Then don't say anything in the first place, in my opinion. Bringing that back to Joe Rogan, that old, timeless cultural thing where everyone, regardless of how horrible they are given the opportunity to say what they think. It's entertaining. It's fun. We all live these normal lives, mostly monotonous and soulless in ways. It's fun to see what everyone thinks. It's the other thing that's interesting about Joe. He's a comedian. He's part of one of the last, other than his podcast, he's part of one of the last cultures that's been relatively untouched by this stuff, other than Dave Chappelle when he released his special last year. Of course, all of these hand-picked, perfectly, what word am I looking for? Hand-picked and I'll remember it as soon as the camera's off. That always happens. Hand-picked Rotten Tomatoes critics who are super politically correct, they all go, oh, I don't like it because it said that offensive thing. And then they tailor it like that, and they make it so he has like a 0% score, and then the audience, just millions of reviews come in, and they love everything he did. Because it's all about being virtuous. That's why this term virtue signaling has become very popular in recent years. And it's not a right-wing term. It's a anti-SJW term. It's just stop going out of your way to screech for the disenfranchised in order to make yourself look good. That's what virtue signaling is. Signaling your virtue without actually having to be a virtuous person. That's all it means. It's not a right-wing term. It's just a term. It's a term. A lot of people get it mixed up that SJW and all that kind of stuff is right-wing stuff. It's not at all. It actually was popularized in the mid-2000s by social democrats, which is very left-leaning people who hate their own people. They hate their own people for taking it to the next level. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. Joe Rogan is the most popular podcast in the world for all of the reasons that I've described. He's personally a liberal-minded person. He has a left-wing position on almost every political issue, but he's also pro-gun. See, he's nuanced. He doesn't just automatically go, oh, I have to say guns are bad because I'm on the left. Like, no, you can be on the left and still have a position that people who are mindless would, oh, you know what, I'm just going to hold him, who are mindless would just automatically attribute it as a right-wing thing. So the world is nuanced. The world is complicated. Nobody is one thing or the other. No one is all evil. Well, hey, maybe there's some people who are just horrible people, but Joe Rogan gives people an opportunity to speak their mind. It's interesting to an audience to see people from all walks of life, whether you're a right-winger, a left-winger, center of the political spectrum, whether you're a comedian or an explorer, a scientist. It's just an interesting place. There's no bullshit. Joe will never go, oh, you can't say that, it's going to hurt people's feelings. What is with this whole hurting feelings bullshit in the first place? Are we that weak? Or right, people are pretending to be weak because they want sympathy points. Oh my God, woe is me. Please give me sympathy because my life is just so horrible living in a first world country with unlimited access to clean water. Fucking ridiculous. Anyways, I think that's all I've got to say about this. I hope I haven't missed anything. That's it, I think. Bye-bye. I'll see you guys tomorrow for my next video.